pride is the ability to move through the world in all of the different identities that I inhabit and feeling free from shame and fear.
For me, pride is really a call to action, and it's much more about how we live the other 11 months of the year than what we do in June. If we're not fighting for liberation and the end of oppression every day, then what are we all here for?
The process of understanding and ultimately celebrating who you are.
Carving out safe spaces for people to feel like they can celebrate their identities and connect with people in their community.
You know, Pride is a time where we really get to focus on community building and outreach. I think a lot of the time we think of Pride as this kind of celebration, and we should definitely celebrate. Pride and community is important, but I also think it's important to use this time to remember the people who came before. Marsha Pay It No Mind Johnson and Sylvia Rivera and Stormy DeLavier, whose transformative kind of activism at the Stonewall Rebellion led directly to the Pride that we know today.
The celebration of queer rage, which may seem counterintuitive, but queer rage to me is actually a manifestation of queer love. It means loving ourselves and loving our community enough to fight for something better.
It's also an important time to assess, progress, because when the most vulnerable of us aren't safe in a space or in a room, then none of us are safe in a room. And so I think an important part of Pride is to acknowledge all the stuff that's going on. I think of trans kids, gender diverse kids being barriered from healthcare, being barriered from playing sports, being barriered from literally just living their lives and trying to have space for themselves. And so Pride is about doing everything that we can, recognizing that and doing everything that we can to make sure every queer person, every queer kid, is safe.
Celebrating who you are, where you are now, wherever you are on your journey, and that's valid and beautiful, and you're here and you're seen.
Believing in yourself, understanding that you matter, that you're important.
Embracing love in all its forms.
You don't have to water down who you are or pretend to be something less just to please people who are not you. Ultimately, who you are is who you are, and you can be happy to be that.
I think about a conversation I had with some members of the Iranian community, which is my cultural community, who I do a lot of talking to and outreach to through my books. And in this case, there was, an older man, probably of my father's generation, who asked about Pride specifically and said, why do you need Pride? Why do you have to even publicly show who you are? Why can't you live in private? And, that was very much the message that was sent to me throughout my whole coming of age, was to just live in darkness, basically, and to hide certain parts of myself. And the journey of self-acceptance and of creating art and writing has been the journey of developing pride in myself. I think pride is a process. I think we all are okay wherever we are in that process. But for me personally, it's about celebrating that journey of self-acceptance that I've been on, and that many members of our community have been on.
Community. It means belonging somewhere, having people who understand you, and not being alone.
Letting go of shame.
Just loving who you are in the moment, even if you're a hot mess.
So growing up, I sort of hated myself a lot for my sexual orientation. Pride was sort of the moment when I began to love myself, and not despite who I was, but because of who I was.
Loving yourself authentically and unapologetically. That can take time, and that's okay. But, I don't know. I just feel like that's the thing that we're all striving towards.
Just taking stock of where you are in your queer journey and celebrating that. You don't have to have all the answers today, but whether you're still discovering your gender or your sexuality and don't have all those puzzle pieces in place, knowing that you have even just one or a little crumb of one piece figured out is something to be happy about and celebrate. And you're beautiful, and I love you.
Celebration of everything that I have gone through, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a loud celebration either. We all have our own respective journeys when it comes to our identities, and I think I've had a lot of more like quieter moments sometimes, and I've been able to share with like my family and friends and community. But it is just really finding power in myself and value in my heart, and just really loving who I am, which is an ongoing battle for me. But I love being queer. It is one of my favorite things about myself, and I'm really happy I get to say that.
The ability to be yourself, to have pride in who you are as a person, as an individual.
It's coming to the realization that you get to decide what you believe about yourself and how you are going to define yourself.
Giving yourself the space to figure out who you are, giving yourself permission to explore that, and to find the joy in that process, and in that community.
Feeling free to live as yourself.
And what I think has been really interesting about being queer and now being older is how that word has changed for me. And pride now is more about getting to live my truest self. I get to be queer, I get to be non-binary, and I love it, and I hope you can find your own journey too.
It's a flashback to my mother and my father. Pride is persevering despite all the things that are in your face that tell you no. And that one small voice in the back of your head that tells you yes. Pride to me is defiance in spite of the fact that everything that has come before you suggests that you cannot. But in fact, you can. That is my pride. That is my idea of being, in spite of the fact that everything else has told me, no, you cannot be.
Looking back on how we got here, and also looking forward to what we still have to work on, and to really invest and care about and take care of our most vulnerable members of our communities. And it's a reminder to always be reaching out and stepping in and creating those safe spaces, and to be helping the members of our community, and to come together and celebrate and like have a good time, but also put in, you know, the really important work that our community has been doing for years upon years and years.
Not having to hide who you are, and also feeling secure in yourself, like even if you don't know who you are, how you identify, finding people who are like you and who accept you for who you are.
Being fully myself with all my happiness, my sadness, my joy, my flaws, my ambitions.
Means knowing that I don't have to be alone in figuring out these aspects of myself, just going through life, because there's nothing wrong with taking a little bit longer and finding out who you are and how you want to present yourself.
Loving and celebrating exactly who you are.
Pride is knowing that you have a community, that you belong somewhere, and that goes for whether you're in the closet, you're out of the closet, whether you're surrounded by an army of people who love you, or whether you know it just inside of yourself. Pride is knowing that your existence matters and that you should celebrate.
A promise that we will not be diminished or hidden away, that we will continue to make ourselves known, and that we'll do it together.
Self-acceptance and self-love. I believe if you don't accept and love yourself as the person that you are, I think it's going to be difficult to have pride in not just your sexuality, but your identity.
To me, pride means being able to hold your head up high and know that you are perfect exactly as you are.
For me, pride means community, not just friendship, but also found family and learning that you're not alone in the world.
It means new storytelling, and it means love.
Feeling safe and secure in a community, and then showing up for other people when they need that from you.
Taking up space as you are.
Pride means the freedom to be yourself in as big or as small a way as you would like.
Being confident, happy, strong, and however that looks for you.
I think it's really important to know our history. The history of our resilience is very inspiring and potent and vital.
Pride is all about remembering queer history. So much of queer history has been intentionally left out of the textbooks and very whitewashed. So I love digging into history and learning about the queer pioneers that came before me.
It's a celebration of how far we've come, but also a rallying cry for how far we need to go. And I was very, very happy to be here.
Never doubt your authenticity
Never doubt that you are valuable, and know that just by being you, that is the most courageous thing you ever do.
It's a time to kind of truly reflect on identity and community and partnerships and the history that brings us to where we are today. The understanding that we really need to honor and reflect on the work that's been done, but also we need to continue to keep an eye on the work that's still to come.
To me, pride is giving yourself that freedom to love yourself and all the parts that make you, you. It doesn't have to be loud and it doesn't have to be open. It's just about allowing yourself that goodness that you deserve wherever you are in it. And wherever you are in it, you are loved. And I hope that you know that.
Being who you actually are and the power that gives you.
I get to own my own space and be happy and be awesome.
It means finding your place in part of a bigger picture and in just finding a sense of belonging.
It is community, and it's a celebration of yourself and your identity and being who you are.
Being free to be my true self and the freedom to discover what that is.
It's about honoring our history and remembering that although queer and trans people have always existed, we have fought to be here and visible. It's also about remembering how much there is that's still left to do.
It means being at home in your own identity, and knowing that identity might change as you grow up and get older. I don't see myself the same way I did at 20 or 13, but it means being at home in who you are right now.
It's being proudly and safely out in my personal and professional life. It also means being aware that this is a privilege and considering how I can be a better ally to more marginalized members of my queer community.
It's being unflinching from who you are regarding yourself without any kind of implemented societal judgment.
It's pure joy. You've all been caged for a very long time, and this is Pride is you flying free.
The colours of Pride are very, very significant for me. Splash a bit of colour, no matter how you're feeling, keep shining despite any kind of bigotry, homophobia, racism, whatever it is, always just keep shining, be proud of who you are.
It's a lifelong journey of self-acceptance, really, about learning to love myself because of my queerness, both individually and within the context of my community, and learning to love queerness in all of its manifestations.
It's a time where I remember moments that are special. I remember friends who have come and gone, and those who have made a lasting impact on my life.
Is daring to live and love as your authentic self.
Okay, so I think it's a time to let other queer people know that there's a community here for them, and that we will welcome them and support them. And I hope we're doing that all year round, not just during Pride, but during Pride, I think when there's this kind of amplified conversation and, maybe we can reach someone that we maybe wouldn't have reached before. And I think that always feels like a really special thing.
To the queer and questioning kids reading this, just know that there are people out there who will love you exactly as you are and who will love whoever you grow up to be. I'm proud of you.
And I love you and appreciate you. Happy Pride!